So, where is the camp of the saints? Where is it? Right? Because many people have their eyes on the state of Israel, on these Jewish people, and they think, well, prophecies are fulfilled for all these Arab nations are surrounding Israel. But it is talking about the camp of the saints. Can you be a saint if you don't know God? If you deny the Christ? No, of course not. The camp of the saints is somewhere else. So where is the camp of the saints? Is it one particular small part on earth? No, it's not. I'm going to explain this. I'm doing a big study on. Oh, my chair is going down. I'm doing a big study on Revelation, trying to figure it out. And I'm still working on it. I'm going to make some videos where I can put verses in the screen. But I'm just going to go out of my head and see what share what I see, right? Because when I read Revelation, I see a clear picture of there's going to be a destruction on Israel, right? And you can say, well, it's spiritual Israel, but in the beginning, clearly it says that city where the Lord Jesus Christ is crucified. So there it is still talking about the city of Jerusalem, but we all know that the city was destroyed. There's big destruction coming, right? So also when it's talking about Mount Zion, right, it's talking about that people worship God there. Do these people now in the old Jerusalem and the old Mount Zion worship God? No, they don't. Jesus said, no one can come to the Father except by me. So what is Mount Zion, right? What is the New Jerusalem? Where are they? Where is the camp of the saints? Mount Zion, the New Jerusalem, the kingdom of Christ is in the redeemed people of God. Whether you live in Europe, America, South Africa, or New Zealand or Australia, these are all people and they collectively are the camp of the saints. What is a saint? For example, if you go to 1 Corinthians chapter 1, 2, it says, unto the church of God which is at Corinth, to them that are sanctified in Jesus Christ, called to be saints. The Greek is talking about called to be holy. It's basically the same thing. A saint is someone who is set apart. So who is set apart for God? That was always Israel. But we have to have the right Israel, because Satan has always tried to steal the dominion and the identity of Israel. It's always done that. And Jesus rebuked them. He said, John, if you really were, if my father was also your God, you would have listened to my words, but you don't know him, for you are not of him, right? So the world, and that is basically led by Satan, the adversary of God, right? And he works through the people of the Antichrist. They have, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this, who exactly they were and what all the schemes were in history. But they have convinced the world, even surrounding the camp of the saints, even people called to be saints, they have convinced them that this message of the Bible is not about the Israelites. It's a universal message, destroying the task of Israel. And the Satan has convinced people to call you a racist or a white supremacist, right? And that's exactly what Esau has done. Esau hates the fact that the blessings went to Jacob. This is where all the blessings went. This is where they became the temple of God. And he hated it. And therefore they call them white privileged and white supremacists, because they hate the children of God. But the children of God are not racist. They are just fulfilling their task. So what is the task of the children of God? What is their task, right? And by now we should know who true Israel is, right? I proved it in so many videos, and that's the European people who scattered all over the world, right? So if we go to Deuteronomy 7:6, we'll see something that the church don't talk about, right? Because they made it into an antichrist universal system, destroying the light, right? It's a strange light, scattered light. It is not a lamp stand that stands on a hill, right? So Deuteronomy 7:6. So God tells the children of Israel that you are a holy people unto Yahweh thy God. Yahweh thy God has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So the people of Israel, the Israelites, are a special people, right? It even says that they are above all other peoples. Now the Jews interpret this to think that they will have dominion by enslaving everybody, and also black Hebrew Israelites, they think that they will rule this world by domination and enslaving others. But what does it mean? It means they are above people because they are a kingdom of priests, kings and priests. They are to be a light to the world. So it's not about racism, hating other people. No, it's about understanding that you are a light to the world, that they will look upon you and say, we want that God too, right? That's the role of us. Therefore, the camp of the saints are the believers who are in the West. But Esau has distorted the whole message, made everything uh, um, racist and all these terms here, Islamophobic and anti-Semitic, and and Esau always hated the fact that Jacob stole the dominion more or less by lying, right? But the promise was gonna go to Jacob, right? But because of Esau, what happened there with Jacob and Esau, Isaac put a blessing on Esau, but it was only to show the world that Esau is incapable of ruling this world, right? So many Christians in Europe, old friends of mine in the Netherlands, they say, Chris, you're so racist. Just let live and let live. All these people want to be happy. It doesn't matter who you are, right? Well, how is it working out for you? How is it working out for you, this whole Marxist idea, right? Well, the whole world is falling apart, right? There's Esau doing that. And people have learned, no, but don't speak up because I don't want to be called an anti-Semite or Islamophobe or homophobe. I don't, no, I just live that hippie mentality that even came into the church, and the church don't know even who they are. That's why the church is so weak, but it had to happen. God put a veil over this truth so Esau could fulfill the prophecy of Isaac that he will have dominion. But now it is becoming more and more apparent that Esau cannot rule this world in love and righteousness. Only Jacob can. But Esau has dominion for now, and this dominion is coming to an end. Right? Who is Esau? Right? Well, Esau intermarried Hittite, Canaanite women, and they became Edom, the enemies of God. And these people go all the way back to Cain, right? And God told Cain that he will be a vagabond in the earth. Now, who is the only people who were always vagabonds and basically still are? Right? They stole land, call it their own, but basically they're still vagabonds. They don't really have home country because many of these people are from all kinds of different nations wandering about carrying their religion. Well, we all know who these people are, right? So these Jews, they have always been kicked out everywhere, not because of their skin color, because of what they brought into the traditions, the religious works, the fruit, and no one wanted them, right? So even if you know Russia, they looked upon the blessings of Jacob, and he got angry, right? He got jealous, and therefore Karl Marx wrote a book Karl Marx came from a long line of Edomite rabbis, and he hated when he looked at the white man that he was so prosperous and living in blessings. He hated it, so he wrote that communist book. And this is where the Russian Revolution came from, because these Bolsheviks were all, the majority were Jewish Marxist leaders, and it ended up killing 66 million people. Right? They hated it. They wanted to take away their blessings, and it's still happening. And many people think, well, the Second World War was won. We had the victory. Now Germany was defeated, and now we're going to live in freedom. No, it was a big victory for Esau. Right? They never defeated the communists. They even funded the communists. Right? Many people don't realize that. Right? But all these Freemasons, right, like Churchill, he was a Freemason. He got, these Jews threw money at him to win the war. So Germany may have lost, but Jewish communism won in 1945. Right? A few years later, 3 years later, the state of Israel was there. Right? And what have they done to the camp of the saints? What have they done to it? They introduced Marxism not through war in Europe, revolution like the Bolsheviks did in Russia. No, they had a plan to bring the camp of the saints away from God. And how did they do it? Well, through Marxist indoctrination, through movies, through the media, through schooling system, right? All these hippies in the 60s were all to universal idea, and I just love everything. They became the professors in the universities, and the whole generation, it became more and more Marxism, freedom for everyone. But we see now that this left liberal Marxist idea is not bringing freedom. It's a false promise, because Satan is a liar. He was a liar from the beginning. Right? Even when Jesus came to Judah, he called them liars. You are of your son, you are of your father, the devil, and he was a liar and a murderer from the beginning. All right? They lie, and it's about power, worldly power. It's about money. It's about shekels, right? Just like the money changers, that never changed. So, is my message racist? No, my message is a message of love. For if we understand who we are and what our task is, and Esau will be defeated, right? So now Jacob will be like lamb sent on the mountain, so all people can live off that light. That's a beautiful message. That's the message all the way from the beginning to the end of the Bible, right? We have to teach, and not just teach, but also show by example, and that other people want to be like Jacob. They want to worship that same God. Like the Bible talks about that, they say, let's go up to that light. Let's go there. Let's worship the God of Jacob. Let that God teach us his ways. Right? Nothing to do with racism. Right? So the camp of the saints are us, right? The Europeans who also went to America, South Africa, and Australia and New Zealand. That is collectively the camp of the saints. Where are the most camp of the saints? They are in Europe, right? Europe in population is bigger than population of America even, right? But of course also Americans are called out to be saints. So it is very hard to be a light to the world if you're still under the rulership of Esau. But still, people praise Esau. And look where the world is heading. The world is falling apart. We're losing our freedoms. We're losing freedom of speech because you can't say anything anymore without being called a bigot and a racist and a white supremacist. Right? So they basically also call God a racist. I'm going to read it again, Deuteronomy 7:6. So this is God, what God said to the white people, right? For thou art a holy people unto Yahweh thy God. The Yahweh, the God that's chosen thee to be above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Right? How are they above all people? Because the white people have a role to play in the whole salvation, and that everyone will worship Yahweh. That's a very, they talk about white privilege, but I feel privileged that I have this role, right? So all these people say, now, Christian, it's all racism, and just let love live and let live. Well, the Bible also speaks about Gog and Magog. They will surround the camp of the saints. So is that the Palestinians in Iran who will attack the state of Israel? No, it's happening right now, and not even through a war yet. It is a spiritual warfare, right? That it is not a coincidence that after the war, where Marxism had the victory, that they started to have excuses. Oh, we are building up our countries again, but we don't have labor. So they brought people from Morocco in and from Turkey and from Africa in to help build up the country, right? But it was all a Marxist agenda, right? But people have always lived in Europe for decades. Not always, but for decades. And they had their own beliefs and gods. Some of them, they really appreciated it so much that they also started to worship the God of Israel. But the majority never wanted the God of Israel. They just want to go there to have a better life, but we still reject the God of Israel. And now they opened the floodgates, millions and millions and millions of different people, strangers come in, bringing with them different gods. And but the Marxist indoctrination says, "Oh, it's okay. It doesn't really matter." We have now Turkish Muslims in the Dutch government, and they declared that Holland is no longer a Christian nation, right? It is now a Christian Islam nation, right? And if they have their way, then in a few decades, it will not even be a Christian Islam nation. It will be an Islamic nation, right? But Muslims don't understand that Esau just uses him for the Marxist agendas, right? To just throw everything down. But the camp of the saints is still there. It is just surrounded by Gog and Magog, right? I'm going to do some more videos. What I found in Revelation, and also they took away the book of Maccabees and Esdras, but there's a lot of information, right? Also, the king of the Arabs will come and invade. There's a lot of information. They took it away because they want you to. They don't want you to know that you are Jacob. They don't want you to know that you're a peculiar people. They don't want you to know that you have a role to play, a special task. That you are. This task is so important that God placed you over other people to have authority, but not by enslaving people, but by bringing them to that light. Be that light so people can come to the outer courts and live under that same light. That's a beautiful message, right? So this idea from, everyone is spiritual Israel and nobody knows who they are, right? And also resentment came in and hate for the white people. They even want to bring in so many Africans that there will not even be a white people no more. God will not let God. There is always going to be a remnant, right? And again, no, I'm not saying that if you're not white that you cannot come to God. Of course you can, but many people don't want to come, right? Because we have to live by example. But how can we live by example if we walked away from God and be indoctrinated by Hollywood movies about how the world should be, right? I don't like Netflix, but sometimes I watch a movie and it is filled with hate towards the white man. It is filled with antichrist, all kinds of propaganda, right? And people it goes all in the brain, in the computer, and they start act accordingly, and they don't even know who they are, right? You even see people now, sons of God, kissing the feet of black Hebrew Israelites because they don't know who they are, right? And even black people, they basically curse themselves if they call themselves Israel, going against the white people, right? The Bible is very clear about that. If you bless Israel, you will be blessed. If you curse Israel, you will be cursed, right? That's why so many people praise the state of Israel, because they think, well, if I bless Israel, I will be blessed. But they have the wrong Israel, and they just forfeit their own inheritance. There is an inheritance for Jacob that is to have the dominion, to be a light to the world, right? But you also already see glimpses of it, right? I mean, even in China and the Middle East now and Japan, they all want to look like the West, right? The same houses, the same skyscrapers, right? The same fashion, right? All the world wants to drive in German cars, right? Mercedes and Audi and you name it, or Italian cars. The whole world wants to wear French perfume, right? The whole world wants to have Western technology, right? And even China, these sellouts, these big companies brought all the technology to China because it's cheaper there to manufacture. But also, you can go to Japan. They have big orchestras playing European music. So in a way, they already want to be like the children of God, but there is still also mixed with a lot of lies, Marxism that get growing and growing, right? So don't be discouraged, don't be afraid, because it has nothing to do with racism as they call it, right? It is accepting your inheritance. It is accepting your role. For if God did not call the Corinth people in Corinth, Paul called them also Israelites. Paul called people in Rome Israelites. He called them and showed the verses. The church always kept that, but it is right there. And if it wasn't for them, there would not even be Christianity. We wouldn't even have people in Africa that worship God. Few people in China would. You wouldn't even have that, right? But it is rejected. It is hated, and Esau is trying to take it down and bring so many different gods and people that nobody knows who they are, right? And it is a message of hippie love, right? But see where it is leading us. It is leading us in destruction. We're losing freedoms every day. And that's one of the reasons that we are also under judgment. Good morning, Mike. Right? If you disobey God, walk away from God, there are, according to God's own laws, judgments every single time. That hasn't changed, right? So there is another wrath coming, a judgment coming, right? The more I study, the more I realize that Jesus came to establish his church. How did the exact work? Still figure it out. But we know that Europe became Christian. They were called to be a chosen people, a called out people, right? But we also see that there are beasts given, attacking them, right? Hi, Nikki. Hey, Alexander. Right? So, but there's always going to be a remnant. But yeah. Yesterday I was watching a very bad movie with my wife, and it was called the Vacation House or something. It was about two couples going to a lake with a big house to stay there for a weekend, and one of these girls was Muslim, and also the white guy sent an email, can I rent this house for the weekend? And also this Muslim girl sent an email, but the white guy who sent the email, he got the response, yes, I got a lot of reactions, but yes, you can have that house. And oh, so racist. Oh, these white people are so racist because I'm a Muslim and you didn't give it to me, even though she was there. But she was all, the whole video, white men are bad, white men are racist. There's all indoctrination, right? Just like the new movie Karen, right? Where a black couple, virtuous and calm and good people, they move into a block, and there is this white lady living there called Karen, and she's so incredibly racist, right? You see it more and more often, right? You see also more and more in movies that the black guy is the big hero, and the white man, especially German with blonde hair, they're always the villains, right? They're always the evil people, right? It's all a brainwash, right? So you cannot stand for your faith no more. People don't know who they are, right? people in India read this book and they think, oh, it's talking about me, right? It's not talking about them. This is explaining what our role is and what we should do. So these people in India would genuinely find God, right? Can live off the light of Israel, not the light of this world. Well, not in the sense of not according to Marxist propaganda. Yes, we are the light of this world, right? But there's also a false light in this world called Marxism. It goes all the way back. There was always a hate towards the chosen bloodline, right? And yeah, of course, people feel less, and that is the fault of Esau because they told them they told them things that were not true, and now everyone is offended, right? And you can say nothing more without people being offended, right? And it's interesting. There is a book called The Camp of the Saints from a French writer, and I haven't read it yet, but Steve Brennan, he read the book and it's changed his whole worldview. And then there was on YouTube the Young Turks, I think it is, that YouTube station, the Young Turks. Oh, he's such a racist, how dare! Because Esau has made America and Europe a free-for-all. It doesn't matter what God you have, your culture, bring it here, we just mix it all up, right? And now everything is falling apart. But still they keep pushing it, right? Calling everybody a racist and a bigot. I know, and meanwhile, everything is falling apart, right? But this is, God knows this, God foresaw this. So there is a big judgment coming. There was a big judgment in the first century, right? It was more regional Roman Empire, but the big white throne judgment, in my opinion, is going to be a judgment for the entire earth, right? Because nothing, the Bible even speaks that nothing is new under the sun, right? Things keep repeating itself, right? So it's going to be global, right? The Israelites don't just live in a small land called Canaan anymore. They are spread all over the earth now, right? From the east to the west, right? They are to be a light to the world, right? The enemy hates it. He wants to mix it up with different gods. And this is exactly why God divorced the northern kingdom of Israel around 700 BC, because they lived with other peoples and started to marry these other peoples and also started to worship the gods of these other peoples, and God divorced them. And they went away with their idols, going into, they ended up in Europe, having their own idols and their own mythologies, and they no longer had God's laws. They were called the uncircumcised, right? They were called covenant breakers. But God sent Jesus 2,000 years ago to redeem them, not by the law, but by grace. And if they hear through faith, they would be saved, right? Because they still had a role to play. God didn't forget about them. Yeah, for a while he did no longer call them his people, but he regathered them, right? Because their role is still to play, to be a light to the world, right? How can other people be drawn to that light if it's a big mess? And this Marxism has created the big mess, right? And now they look upon Europe and they think, oh, it's fine, Marxism, right? So these people in China, they don't know the light yet, right? They prefer Esau's light. That's why China's communist, right? And even many Chinese people, they think it's fine. They worship statues of Marx, right? So, I hope this will encourage you, because this Bible is about us, right? Not mixed people in the Middle East calling themselves Jews. The Bible is not about them. Yeah, it's talking about them, how they are a cut of people thrown in the fire, right? Broken off branches. Also, the idea that we are Gentiles, we are grafted into Jewish tree, that is just pure nonsense when you think about it, right? The first century church was built upon the foundation of the apostles. They were Israelites, and the kingdom of God would be like a mustard seed. It started with 12 apostles, and it went now all through Europe, and they went to America, they went to South Africa, it spread, right? But Satan has always attacked it, right? So, you must be a little bit brave because not many people are afraid to be called a racist, right? But they don't understand. Right? Everything is racism nowadays. Everyone is offended, right? First, they take away the identity of true Israel, and now they try. Then they stole away the identity of what a marriage and a family is all about. We saw families falling apart all over the place, and now they even taken away the identity of what it is to be a man and a woman. It goes further and further and further. They want to distort the truth. And if you now say, "Well, I'm a man," then I'm a bigot, right? I have a problem with transgenderism, right? I'm a bigot. Yeah. So whether you claim your inheritance, or you claim to be a man, or you claim to believe in family values, you're a bigot now. And it's all the fault of Esau, right? And Karl Marx came from Esau, right? The enemy of God. And they all operate, everyone who call themselves Jews and cleaves to this evil Babylonian Talmud, they are the enemy of God. They all operate under the same banner of Edom, right? God foreknew this. This is not an accident. The Bible, the Revelation did not stop at something, and then that's it. The world will just get more increasingly evil, or and then it doesn't matter if we fly off to heaven anyway. It takes away all form of responsibility, and it takes away your task, your role. You still have to play, right? And one day all knees shall bow. That will happen, right? But as long as Esau reigns, it won't happen. But Esau's reign will come to a climax, right? And then judgment comes, right? Whether you believe Jesus still has to come, anyway, judgment will come, right? So we still have, no, the Bible is not finished 2,000 years ago. This is it, right? Israel has still a role to play in this world. We just have to remember who we are, right? Hey, Raven, yeah. Well, I was talking about the camp of the saints, right? Many Christians look at that desert in the Middle East, and they call themselves the state of Israel. But they are not the camp of the saints. In order to be a saint, you must have Christ, for no one can come to the Father except by Christ. So someone who cleaves to Babylonian teachings and deny the Christ, it's impossible. That is the camp of the saints, right? Gog and Magog surrounding that camp, right? Everyone is there. Oh, Iran and Palestine want to attack Israel, so that must be the camp of the saints. Now, that is impossible, right? The people of Jehovah, us, the Europeans, are everywhere they live collectively the camp of the saints, right? And they are all over the world, so they all can look on it, right? So, yeah. Fortunately, over the decades, the children of God walked away from God and started to watch Hollywood movies, and Hollywood movies that even romanticizes violent movies, right? It is cool, became cool to be a gangster, or cool to be a drug dealer, right? Gangster rap is cool. Everything is cool. All this gangster rap, all these things, that is all Marxist invention. Black Lives Matter, Marxist. Black Hebrew Israelite, Marxist. The Black Panthers, Marxism, right? And they're all being steered, and even Islam is part of it. And they're all being controlled by Esau to overtake and destroy the camp, the saints. Okay? Gog and Magog is surrounding the camp of the saints, right? And Esau wants us to accept it, right? There's not just one God. There's many gods. It doesn't matter what God you believe. It doesn't matter what culture you have, what traditions you have. Just come in America and Europe, bring it with you, and we just try to live happily together, right? Well, see how it's working out, right? Look, everything is falling apart. And if there are still people who can't see it, then they have to really start waking up, because everything is falling apart. We're going into full-fledged new world order in Europe. They're already working on a European Union collective digital ID code. Everything's going to be linked to it. It's already becoming a reality. Hi, Nikki. Chris, do you have any other way you get into contact with your viewers besides YouTube? such as a Telegram channel, as example. I don't know what a Telegram channel is, Nikki, right? I have Telegram on my phone, but I don't know Telegram channel, right? But Nikki, why do you want me to be in contact with my viewers besides YouTube, right? By the way, I have a few videos on BitChute because I'm heavily shadow banned on YouTube. Every time my channel grows, then YouTube just blocks it. YouTube takes away comments, takes away views. One video had 1.5 thousand views, and suddenly it was only 900. And YouTube is constantly not putting me out. When it starts growing, then YouTube just blocks it. So I thought it would help to go on BitChute, but it is no better, right? All those millions of people on BitChute, and then 70 views, and it stops. Suddenly, that's weird to me. But there are some videos on BitChute. Telegram channel would be your own created Telegram chat group that you could invite viewers into to talk about stuff that don't make it into videos, for example. Okay, yeah, I'll think about that, Nikki. Yeah, yeah, because I always search the limits, but I've noticed my last few videos. Normally, when I make a video, and not live videos, but normal videos with verses in the screen and all these things. I do it in an editing program, and then I have to download it from the editing program to YouTube, and then it is on YouTube, and it's there. But over the last few videos, it says monitoring, so there's someone from YouTube watching the whole thing, listening to everything what I say, right? So it's getting harder and harder, right? The truth gets harder and harder to be spoken of, right? You could, for example, speak more freely without walking on eggshells on a Telegram chat group compared to a YouTube video or comment. Okay, yes, I'll think about that. Thank you, Nikki. Yes, everything Esau did is forbidden to talk about, right? Whether it is 9/11, whether it is the First World War, whether it is the Second World War, whether it is all these things, right? You can talk about it, right? But you cannot talk about how Esau was involved in this. That will be the end of your channel. That's how Esau works, right? We know that on Facebook, they have only Marxist fact checkers who only, they're not experts, they don't know nothing, they just have a guideline, right? You keep to what we want, and you have free speech? No, right? Also on Twitter, same thing. At YouTube, same thing, right? So I'm gonna do this as long as I can, and right, because I think it's time. God is lifting the veil, and it's time for us to wake up, realize who we are, right? The power in that, right? We're not just some poor grafted pagans, grafted in. No, we are the holy tree, right? Christianity misunderstands Romans, and they think that we are pagans grafted into the Jewish tree. But the Jewish tree is a rotten tree. It's an unbelieving tree. But they want to be grafted into the Jewish tree, and they start to talk Jewish and dress Jewish and praise Israel, right? That's what they do. But the ones who believed in Judah, my sheep hear my voice and they follow me. Those are the natural tree. And the lost tribes in Europe could be grafted in there or grafted back in. You could also say, right? Bible talks about being grafted back in, right? Because they used to belong to the tree in the first place, right? An apple tree cannot become the holy tree, right? Right? So again, it has nothing to do. I'm so tired of people being called racist, because the most racist people I know are not in Europe or America. Right? You go as a white man, live in Zimbabwe, see how they treat you. right? Go and live in Japan, as not as a multimillionaire, but as a just common guy. There are restaurants in Japan just for Japanese people. You won't even make it in there, right? Go to China and tell everybody that you're a Chinaman. They will laugh at you, right? But here, Marxism has says to us, everyone can love their own, except you. You have to keep your mouth shut and accept other cultures, other gods. And if you speak up, you're a bigot, you're an Islamophobe, or you're a xenophobe, anti-Semite, right? That's how they brainwashed people, and they don't not even know who they are, right? So, brothers and sisters, right? We have such a beautiful role to play. We are to be a light to the world. It's beautiful. But in order to be the light of the world, you have to realize that you are the light of the world. And the church also teaches us that it's just about personal salvation. You try not to sin, and then, yeah, well, of course, your personal relationship with God is very important. But the Bible, most of it is not talking about your personal relationship with God. It's talking about us as a nation. We are a nation of kings and priests. We are a peculiar people. It's a nation as a whole. And as long as most of this nation and even believers read everything through Marxism, they cannot be the light of the world, right? God always punished the nation of Israel, right? It was always about being a nation as a collective people, right? The branches. Jesus said, I'm the vine, you are the branches, right? So think about it, right? Some of you already understand it. If you're still on the fence, think about it, right? For yeah, God, I'm gonna read it again for people just tune in, and you might call God a racist, but this is what God says. What is God a racist? Yeah. People have a chance one day to face God and tell it in his face that he's a racist, right? So Deuteronomy 7:6. You is talking about the Israelites, not imposters, true Israelites. You are holy, set apart people unto Yahweh. Why? Yahweh, thy God, has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Right? So I don't see black people in South Africa teaching us the ways of Jehovah. They're killing farmers, right? Crime rates are through the roof. They are disqualified. They will not be a special people above all others, right? Maybe Chinese people are above all others. I don't know. Maybe if they're finished eating dogs and stuff and cats, right? Maybe they can repent of their Marxism and communism and lead the world. No, they won't do it. There's only one people that was always light to the world, even though the light is under attack. That's us, right? Don't never forget that, right? Let me see, how do I do this? Okay, God bless everybody.